Obesity is no longer viewed as a mere risk factor for chronic conditions like diabetes and cardiovascular disease. It is increasingly recognized as a powerful promoter of cancer development and progression. As global rates of obesity continue to rise, so too does the urgency to understand exactly how excess body fat translates into increased cancer incidence and mortality. The answer lies not in a single mechanism, but in a complex biological pipeline, a cascade of cellular, hormonal, and systemic disruptions that begins with weight gain and ends with tumor proliferation, invasion, and often fatal outcomes. At the cellular level, adipose tissue, particularly visceral fat, is far more than passive energy storage. It functions as an active endocrine organ, secreting a range of bioactive substances known as adipokines. In obesity, the balance of these substances becomes dangerously skewed. Pro-inflammatory cytokines such as tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNFA, interleukin-6, IL-6, and monocyte chemoattractant protein 1, MCP1 are elevated, creating an environment of chronic low-grade inflammation. This inflammatory state promotes DNA damage, inhibits normal cell death, apoptosis, and encourages unchecked cellular proliferation, all of which are foundational to tumor initiation. Obesity also disrupts key hormonal systems that regulate cell growth. Elevated levels of insulin and insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1, common in insulin-resistant individuals, stimulate mitogenic signaling pathways such as PI3K/ACT and MAPK, which promote cell division and inhibit apoptosis. This hormonal shift creates a permissive environment for precancerous cells to survive, mutate, and evolve into full-blown malignancies. High insulin and IGF-1 levels have been particularly implicated in colorectal, breast, endometrial, and pancreatic cancers, where their signaling accelerates tumor development and progression. Estrogen is another critical link between obesity and cancer, especially in postmenopausal women. After menopause, fat tissue becomes the primary site of estrogen production through the aromatization of androgens. Women with obesity often have chronically elevated estrogen levels, which fuel the growth of estrogen-sensitive tumors such as breast and endometrial cancers. Estrogen acts through nuclear receptors that directly promote gene expression favoring cell survival, angiogenesis, blood vessel growth, and metastatic potential. In this way, obesity not only increases the risk of these cancers, but also makes them more biologically aggressive. At the systemic level, obesity alters immune function in ways that weaken the body's natural defenses against cancer. Natural killer NK cells and cytotoxic T lymphocytes, essential components of tumor surveillance, become less effective in obese individuals. Simultaneously, the tumor microenvironment becomes enriched with immunosuppressive cells such as regulatory T cells and myeloid-derived suppressor cells, which help tumors evade detection and destruction. This immune dysfunction, coupled with inflammatory signaling and metabolic disruption, allows cancer cells not only to grow but to resist immune-based therapies. Another key factor in the obesity cancer pipeline is oxidative stress. Excess fat increases the production of reactive oxygen species, ROS, which damage DNA, proteins, and lipids, creating mutations that drive tumorigenesis. The accumulation of cellular damage over time, especially in a setting of impaired DNA repair mechanisms, common in aging and metabolic dysfunction, facilitates malignant transformation. These oxidative insults may also promote resistance to chemotherapy and radiation, reducing the effectiveness of standard cancer treatments. Obesity also influences the physical and metabolic structure of the tumor microenvironment. Adipocytes near tumors can be co-opted into cancer-associated adipocytes, which release fatty acids that cancer cells use as fuel for rapid growth. These interactions facilitate invasion into surrounding tissues and encourage metastasis. In breast cancer, for example, dense clusters of adipocytes in the tumor stroma have been shown to promote inflammation, immune evasion, and vascularization, all essential for tumor survival and expansion. Moreover, the mechanical effects of excess fat tissue complicate cancer management. In obese individuals, tumors may be harder to detect on imaging, biopsies may be more difficult to perform, and surgery can carry higher risks and poorer wound healing. Radiation therapy planning and chemotherapy dosing become more complex, and drug metabolism is altered by increased body fat, affecting treatment efficacy and safety. These practical consequences of obesity feed back into the biological challenges, creating a vicious cycle of delayed diagnosis, suboptimal treatment, and poorer outcomes. Importantly, these mechanisms do not operate in isolation. They are synergistic. Chronic inflammation amplifies insulin resistance. Hormonal changes influence immune suppression. Metabolic reprogramming fuels oxidative stress and genetic instability. Together, they create a biological landscape where cancer can not only take root but thrive. And the longer an individual remains obese, the more entrenched these systems become, making early prevention and sustained weight management essential components of cancer risk reduction. Understanding the obesity cancer pipeline is critical for shifting the paradigm of cancer prevention. It is not enough to focus solely on genetics, smoking, or environmental carcinogens. Obesity represents a modifiable, systemic condition that intersects with every stage of cancer development, from initiation and promotion to progression and resistance. Public health efforts must treat obesity with the same urgency as tobacco use, and clinical care must integrate metabolic health into cancer risk assessments and survivorship planning. Obesity is not a cosmetic issue. It is a powerful biological force reshaping cancer epidemiology in real time. And unless we confront the full scope of its impact, from the cellular level to the healthcare system, we risk allowing millions of preventable cancer deaths to go unchallenged.